Well, it's about that time again. Night Owl Season 7, Round 1 here from Misano in Italy. And we have a packed box tonight with myself, Jesse Lee, Ryan Mawson, and Mike Jones. In addition to that, we also have Stewie on the broadcast as well. A little tight fit in here with all the elbows coming out, but the stars have also come out tonight for what should be an excellent season opener. And Ryan Mawson, Mike Jones, welcome into the box. I don't think we've ever done a broadcast, the three of us. And that is, of course, why I came out with the patented "Welp, it's that time again" Mike Jones style.
Yeah,
Can you
absolutely.
please talk?
Absolutely. Like I said, you gotta make
I
sure that
can't talk
I
after that.
I had
How do
my
I how do I follow that?
well, there you go. It wouldn't be an RCI broadcast if we didn't have patented Mike Jones. It has now been checked off the list, Jesse. That's one more thing that we've had. There you go. It's done. But yeah, what a opening tonight, Al, taking it literally into night here at Misano, on a track that is a lot of drivers I know do not favor it, but it's probably going to be my favorite track on the calendar. We've seen some great racing here. It's a test of your cars. It's a test of your skill. And speaking of, test of Porsche's ability in the fast right-hand corners there.
Well, I tell you
Oh,
one thing.
look,
I have Jones the Mike Jones. Jones, have you recovered now?
kind of. About as well as this Porsche driver has. So borderline. We'll see. When I came
I
into the box
stayed on
today,
the track, Mike. You know I did.
when I came into the box, granted I was in the box before Jesse, but when Jesse came into the box, he said he said that Mike, I'm gonna lead in the broadcast today. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then he
Hmm.
said, no, I'm gonna do that. And I said, okay, Jesse. And then he pops up with that. So why am I not? Um,
Well,
but
first of all,
Mawson's right. There are a lot of Porsches. Dewey's very excited, and I'm uncomfortable.
yeah, well, I can tell you a couple things. First of all, oh my goodness, Tokyo Drift by George Boothby. That's on purpose. He's showing off to the fan. The monkey's in his chat. That's what he calls him, by the way. He's Yukog Monkey, but I think he calls his Twitch followers monkeys or something like that. I'm not sure of the technical connotations of that. But first of all, a couple things, Mike Jones. I always come in late, and number one, I've always wanted to intro your intro, the big well, and I'm going to check that off my to-do box. Although I will say, you do it a lot better than I do.
Who's got bingo for Night Owl this season? We might hit it within the first 20 minutes. It very
I,
well might happen.
I think we've already got one row at least. I'm gonna go with a Connect Four. Can I have
we're,
a
we're, we're
Connect
gonna have to go
Four,
for
please?
blackout only bingo
Ah,
this
okay.
time around. Like it's the only way this is gonna work. But yeah, so season 7 of Night Owl, this would have been the first season that I would not have been involved in at all, because obviously I dropped out last season because I got a little too busy after I started the season itself. Ted Edwards took over, and he has took over season 7 as well. And about a week ago, when I was thinking, man, I really need to get in and do some comms at some point, and realizing that season 7 of Night Owl was starting, and I went, huh. Well, I wouldn't be involved with that at all since Ted's running it and I'm not driving in it. So I decided to jump into the box and at least be involved for the first race at the very least, and at one of my favorite tracks at that. And my teammate, Jordan Daly, going to be out on screen for his team F-150, sponsored by Gigaslow
You,
McLaren
you gotta
720S.
you gotta say it right. That's the team F-150, sponsored
Just Lee,
by
do we want to do
Gigaslow.
this? Are we going to do this broadcast a little bit like
No,
this? Is that what's going to happen
I'm
today?
just no, but that's the meta. That's the meta. Of course, Samir Fosh, who's also in this race, called Jordan Daly Giga Slow a few weeks ago. Jordan Daly caught wind of that and is now incorporating it into his team name. Quite humorous.
Um, well, speaking of Samir Falk, he last season regardless, so he's got to come out swinging against Savalainen, and so far has not been successful in doing so. However, we do have a special guest in Night Owl for season 7. Stewie's already shown him quite a bit, and I'm sure he will continue to do so because he's in a Porsche. Y'all would have noticed, as Jesse mentioned, George Boothby is here to just take Foch and sweep the floor with him and Savalainen this season.
You think that's what's going to happen? I don't know. I think they may put up a pretty decent fight. Your thoughts, Ryan Moss?
I think it's going to be one of those. Boothby can't get too complacent. We've already seen him sort of showboating for the crowd, as it were. But Savalainen, you can't discount the man's, the man's ability to keep it consistent. It's going to be one of those. At certain tracks, I think Savalainen is going to have quite the run on him. Will it be at Misano, which is a Porsche favourable track? Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that either of them have a long-term shot at Boothby. I know that he'll be taking this obviously a little bit casually than even he does say the Friday Championship, but he's obviously been practicing really hard in this Porsche as he's joined the Yas Heat team, and they're going to be driving the Porsche for a lot of their upcoming races. Boothby is really putting in the work. You got to hand it to him. He went and joined the RCI team, and they were like, hey, we're driving the Porsche because Malinowski joined over there as well, and Boothby and Jardier have been putting in a lot of work in this Porsche, and he's looking pretty strong in it. And as we know, the Porsche necessarily isn't the easiest car to drive, and especially learn if you're used to driving, say, the 720, which is what Boothby is normally driven, maybe the Ferrari occasionally, but it's been good to see him in the Friday Championship. I mean, he's still over there popping off. I think him and Jardier took a 1-2 last night, didn't they, Jesse?
Yeah, they did. Not only did they take a 1-2 last week, they took a 1-2 this week as well. The top two in the championship, and it may as well come down between the two of them. Savalainen's also part of that championship as well. Had a little less luck and are looking to get something for it this weekend. A little bit back, Savalainen is, as pretty sure they retired from the Friday championship race just yesterday.
And now they did. Savalainen came undone at very early in the lap 1 incident in the Mercedes arena with a Honda, but no Hondas around for him this time, as he will be the first under the timing line. Nothing in his way to hit this time, so let's see what the mighty V8 Mercedes can do for a lap around Misano. I think it's going to be a quick one.
Yeah, coming across the line, get as far over to the left as possible. Look for that 50 board, hard on the brakes, down into gear number 2. Get as far right as quickly as possible so you can get through the first section of corners. This first sector can be very, very tricky if you don't hit it just proper, and you can really lose a lot of time. But he's doing it very well around the bus stop chicane into back straight here at Misano. Or front straight, I don't know. There's like 3 straights here. I don't know which one's back straight and which one's not. These turns don't have names at Misano. They're just numbered. And then into the hairpin, all the way down into second gear, very low RPMs, and getting on the throttle as early as possible to get the run down to what is probably the actual back straight as you make it through the fast right-hander, and then through the slightly slower one out onto straight through turn 10. And then this will be turn 11 as you come in through the little kink here on the straight. Dry out here in the middle of the night to 12, I think it's about 1 a.m., 12:45 a.m., whatever it is very late. You can see pretty well through the headlights with no traffic out in front of you. And then hard on the brakes down to the only spot on this track where you'll get down into first gear. And then around the fast left-hander, burp of the throttle, maybe tap the brakes to rotate the car, and then through the final corner, turn 16. That line, I'm going to come across the line. Team, question mark, going to come across at the first lap. This is going to be the long run down the line at a 33.795 for him. I think that's going to be relatively quick, but I'm almost sure that we're going to see those low 33s, and, well, never mind, we're going to see a 32. Jesse, would you like to go?
Well, can you be
already.
surprised? George Boothby with a 32.9 right out of the box. I thought that 33, low 33, might have a shout, but now it is going to take just about a 32.8 to get anywhere near the top of the field. Of course, this is Night Owl Season 7, the opening night, Pro and High Silver here throughout the championship. So 2 different classes running for 2 different sets of points. You can get points by qualifying on pole in your respective category, and of course, having the fastest lap and winning the race as well. Bonus points for the fastest lap, bonus points for pole position. So it absolutely means something. You got to come out of the box very quick indeed. And the racetracks don't get any easier, by the way, as we go deeper into this championship. quite an interesting array of silver drivers as well. And interested to see what they're able to do this season.
We've necessarily seen it as well, where sometimes the silver drivers on the right track, the right day with the right car, they can take the fight all the way up to the pros. You know, it's not have to only race your class in RCI. You're more than welcome to take any position who gives it. I mean, we've had a silver driver, I think it was 2 ago, that won a Silverstone race. Sebastian Brunier took the fight to the pros and showed exactly what he could do all the way up there. Times continue to come down going across the line, and Alex Rogers now comes into the second place position at 33.6. Still a long old way to get up to that 32.9 of Boothby, though.
And this is a man I'm actually going to be keeping an eye on this season as well as Rogers, because did you notice he's in a Porsche? I didn't
Yeah,
recognize him at first without that Aston Martin wrapped around him. But Alex Rogers in the Porsche Learners team for this season, gonna bring that home, and I'm very curious to see how he can do it in different cars. We've pretty much only seen him drive an Aston Martin. Obviously, Stewie is not racing in this championship; he's broadcasting, and I think that oh yeah, he just popped over in the chat. In our production chat, and is saying that he had planned on teaming up with Rogers for the team championship for Night Owl that we do. But unfortunately, Stewie's here in the broadcast booth. But Rogers decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take the Porsche anyway. And so, we'll see how that goes. As Seb Brunier decided not to change cars this season, and he's out there in his McLaren 720S as usual. I would expect nothing less from him.
Well, Seb Brunier returning to Night Owl. He's taken a little time off. He's enjoyed his summer break away from RCI racing. Talking to him earlier today, and he's excited to be back to test his mettle once again. Of course, Seb Brunier was the driver Mawson was talking about that won overall, even though they were a silver driver. Seb was not satisfied with being the silver champion that season. He won outright in a brilliant display of driving. Super Seb, we call him back. And of course, in the pro category here, and of course, we would be remiss if we did not mention that whenever our broadcaster, Stewie, aka Benjamin Heilman, was a silver driver, he also pulled off that feat. So Ryan Mawson's not blowing smoke. He's 100% correct. Silver driver can take the overall, but none of them inside the top 10 thus far. The pros are showing up and showing out. You got Boothby still, quickest mark, a 32.9. Alex Rogers in second place, keeping it 69. Then nearly 0.8 of a second behind Magazi. Nobody even close to Boothby. Austin, I'm starting to think Jones was onto something.
Does look that way, and that was just the first flying lap. Boothby has yet to come back around and set another one. Great track though for qualifying. We're down in the 20C, and it started optimum. It meant that these drivers could immediately push right out of the gate. There was no having to wait and feel your way around the grip levels. You knew what the car can do, take all the fuel out of it and absolutely go for it. And now looking at my timing screen, I'm starting to see some of the greens. This man, Savalainen, trending up in the right direction. We'll be wanting to get just that little bit further up in the pro field where he's usually seated, but it's not an easy track for the Mercedes, the AMG. It is a big, lumbering, heavy beast, but you can get it going down the straights. Can't really argue with it.
Lumbering and heavy, that sounds like me after I eat a whole pizza by myself. So can certainly commiserate. Of course, this qualifying session taking place just after midnight in sim time. Very dark. Track is a very nice 20 degrees and only a light breeze. 4Ks. I think that's a tailwind, in fact, down the front straightaway. Nothing to be concerned about.
Well, here is your was for a second Pimlott. He was P2 in the silver class last season. Of course, John Racer not driving this season, so that means Pimlott has it all to fight for in the silver class. He was well behind a racer who just dominated the silver field last season in season 6, and I'm sure Pim will want to come out and try to hold that crown himself, as he was pretty reasonably up into P2. But here's Thomas Pierce again in the pro class, coming across the line here very briefly. He goes all the way up into P3, takes the cross Line, and I just noticed Samir Falk actually went ahead and put down a faster lap than Boothby a moment ago as well. So Falk out here with a 32.892, the only person even getting close to George Boothby, and in fact surpassing him. And maybe it's the qualifying pace, Jesse, but maybe I will eat my words. And Foch is going to be out here dominating all over Boothby, but Boothby's a couple tenths up, only halfway down with his lap. He just came in through the hairpin. He's now 3 tenths up on his lap, so he's got time to gain. He can definitely get down into those low 32s. He ran a 32.3 in the practice session, so we know that he has not gotten necessarily his best lap ready and out quite yet. He's going to come across the back straight, flash of the lights to one of the blue flagged cars, come across the kink and down into sector 3, still 3 tenths up. This is looking really good as Boothby's going to finish out this lap.
It sure is. George Boothby was bettered by Samir just a moment ago, but could this be instant retaliation? 4.5 minutes to play. Doesn't necessarily need it here, but would like to get something in the bank and then probably go out one more lap. Coming to the line, what's it going to be for George Boothby? Does he retake the lead? He does. 32.472. Exclamation point on the qualifying here. 4 tenths quicker than Samir. Samir Foch has work to do now.
Yeah, he ain't done yet, though. He's a 10th up, Mawson.
Well, there you go. I was just about to say, I still think that there's still something left in the tank of that Porsche. We've seen it go faster. It is the do-or-die lap, so you can see how much Boothby has to fight the car, especially through those fast right-handers. And those are really going to be the challenges for all of these Porsches as they keep, pounding around this track. Especially, it's probably one of the most dynamic cars, so you go through that corner a million times, but depending how much fuel you've got, what's the temperature, how much of your tires done, the Porsche will try to bite you a different way every single time, and you've got to keep on track of that.
Bosch is about 2 tenths up. He's been losing it a little bit through the back half of the track, though. So as he's coming down the back straight, losing it a bit. I don't think that he's going to be able to beat Boothby this lap. He will have about 2 more to go. And here is the silver class leader that we're watching at the moment, the BRT Racing McLaren 720S Phase Cost, driving this number 4 car. He's currently crossing the kink on the back straight. Got, 4.5 tenths up. Well ahead of his silver class competitors at the moment. We might be looking at a potential pro class driver here in round 2 if the race administration decides that he needs to be bumped up, being almost a second ahead in qualifying by the time he ends this particular lap. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll have to see how he does throughout the race and through Bathurst next week, of course. But he is going to come across the line. This is going to put him up into the overall P5. Phase cost goes all the way up. Still 7.5 tenths. Think about that. P5, 7.5 tenths down off the leader. You can really tell who the people out here pushing are, and it is Boothby, Falk, and Severin.
Yeah, it's hard to not be able, not to focus on that point, certainly. And it makes it awfully hard to compete at a high level whenever you are so far behind. I was just told something by race admin Ted Edwards a moment ago. He has synced the race time to the actual time IRL. So apparently it is 13 minutes after midnight in Misano in Italy right now. And I don't know if we've ever done that for a full season before. But that's very interesting, very thoughtful from Ted Edwards, the very spirit of the word Night Owl. Not exactly what you and I envisioned, Mike Jones, when Night Owl first started, but meant to be sort of a later race. And here is Madre in the 911 getting all sorts of out of sorts and sideways, but an excellent save. We're going to take a replay of that. Look at this. Just pressing as hard as you can on the brakes, turning at the same time. Never great in the Porsche, but you get deja vu, and all of a sudden, you've been here before.
But
I think we've all slid that corner a couple times.
Incredibly well to keep that Porsche pointed the right direction. It is, your natural instinct is to turn into the slide, but a lot of times the Porsche, you do that and you're off in the other direction before you can even blink it. It will very happily bite you. And also, as Mike Jones, we have a GTR this season.
I love it. Chris Vining gave up on the GTR, and I'm very disappointed. So I'm glad to see Payne is out here in the GTR instead. Of course, Vining was very quick in that GTR for the seasons he ran it here at Night Owl. Started in the lower class. He was down there with McConnell, Daly, and Edwards and myself in the lower class, and realized that he was actually pretty quick. Jumped up to the high class in the silver split, and now he's all the way up in the Ferrari in the pro class in here at Night Owl. Of course, Night Owl, not quite as competitive as some of the other series. Got a lot of the slower drivers, a lot of the drivers that are out here that don't maybe have quite as much time to drive as some other people. So it's not quite as competitive. You get your Foshas, you get your Savalinans out here. We've got a Boothby this season, but I mean, it's great for people like this man right here, Sebastian Bernier, who's not having a very good qualifying, I will say. Man usually does pretty reasonable in qualifying, but he's just not been able to set a great lap down at the bottom of the pro split qualifying here today, and it's going to be interesting to see if Seb can kind of pull that out through the remainder of the race. But I'm happy to see at least one DTR on the field, even everybody else seems to be taking a Ferrari report.
Well, going back to Max Payne for just a second, Max Payne has entered several RCI championships in that GTR, potentially attempting to learn that car. I think I've seen them in that in previous seasons as well. Chris Vining, in the most recent memory, was the one that had driven that car, and had asked him semi recently if he was going to continue to drive the GTR. He said he was probably going to branch out into other manufacturers, and he has done that in this championship in the Ferrari in another massive accident. I think is pretty much detailing what I was next going to say about Vining. Mawson has had zero luck in recent memory.
Now we've seen a couple of times where it's generally as well, just after we've noticed something, we say Chris Vining is doing incredibly well. And I remember it was at Spa, it's the one that always comes to memory. We had literally talked about that, an accident almost exactly like this, coming over Radion. And the team name for him was Where Will I Bin It Today? Well, his answer that day
Oh
was
dear.
Radion.
Saw a lot of that on Friday during the SRO series. Top of Radion, I think about during that hour race, I think we saw about 6 cars parked up at the top of the hill at some point or another. And I heard Jesse Lee and Mawson. Did you guys see? I posted a picture of this in Snap Discord. That there was somebody that was out at the Spa track doing the test for the Arouge and Radion re that they're doing.
Yeah, I've seen the photos. I'm not particularly happy myself. You need to move the barrier, man, not the racetrack. And it's as simple as that. It's not the racetrack that's causing that, it's the barrier. It's very simple. Do not overthink it. This is typically the point where we would uh, show you championship points. This is the first round. We don't have championship points. So we're talking about the spa reconfigure. Ryan Mawson, why do you hate the spa reconfigure?
It just
He,
sort of
he
takes
didn't. He
away
didn't
all
say,
the.
"Do you like it?" He said, "Why do you hate it?"
Yeah, well, it's one of those. I don't think I would like it. It takes away all the flow, and Eau Rouge Radion has just been such a historical staple of that track. Always, it's so cool to look at pictures from the 1960s, 50s, going all the way back to the earliest racing, and you can see that that has basically not changed. But remember, Jesse Lee, if they changed the barrier, there would be nowhere to build their lovely big chalet.
Oh dear, I'm not getting into that conversation. What I do want to talk about very briefly, and I've had this conversation about 3 times this week, and this will be the final time I think we have to talk about it in length. On November 1st, brand new stewarding rules went into effect on RCI that cover all the series that have started after November the 1st. What does that mean? Well, accidents, especially first lap accidents, but accidents in general, may be judged more harshly if you're deemed at fault for an accident, or side by side contact, inconsequential contact is going to be completely forgiven, and the penalties for having a massive accident are going to be ratcheted way up. And that is in the interest of fairness. That is in the interest of giving those that drive clean the best possible advantage that they deserve. And you will see that throughout the race where a driver may just simply take out another driver by accident, a spin, and going. That usually was several seconds of penalties. It may be a drive through. It is at steward's discretion, as is everything now. They have a rule book that they will follow, but beyond that, it is steward's discretion per incident. It is not dictated by letters on a page, and I think that's great. Put it in the steward's hands, allow them to make the right decision.
And I think the biggest thing, because we've always talked about past year and a half. Speaking of which, it is a year and a half since we started our RCI here. Pretty soon. Crazy to think about. But yeah, we always wanted to make sure that we were over punishing people for just doing race, right? And I think that for a little while there, it kind of got to a point where we were kind of punching a little bit too early just for some nice door to door banging. And we talked to Tom, the head steward, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to do a little bit of a rework of the penalties. We want to make sure that people are properly being punished for incidents they're doing, because in the end, it's something that it's been a bit of a thing where we're only giving a 15-second penalty, but the other driver's getting a knockout of the race or a minute's worth of damage, or whatever. So we want to make sure that those are allowed, and if not, then we want to make sure that they are punished appropriately and potentially DQ'd from the championship as needed. As Stewie's giving us a view of the tail end of the field here, he's salivating over the look of this Porsche at the back, the 199. But yeah, we worked on these rules for a little while, and Tom brought them to us, and the admin team said, "Okay, here's what I want to do." We went, "All right, let's tweak this couple small things," and he implemented them. And I'm very curious to see how they do for the remainder of the year, for the Friday and the Saturday and Mondays and everything like that.
It
Well,
means it. Okay, I was gonna say it means you
I
can get
yeah.
like more door rubbing. I mean, we saw that in the Friday champ where it would be contact, but no further action with so many NFAs, so many that were just down to racing incidents. And yeah, we the racing of that does become a little bit better, but it does mean that if you have some incidents like the Savalainen incident at lap one, will be judged pretty harshly for that. I remember that car, I believe, got a stop go 10.
Yeah, it can come down to that. Of course, drive-through is not the worst possibility. I've heard them talk about if an accident is particularly heinous, it could be a stop go 10, maybe even a bit worse, depending on how many cars get piled up or the level of negligence of the driver. And I think they are starting to get the message, the drivers, and they're cleaning it up a bit. There were several incidents one night ago, Moss, and you'll remember, but it wasn't too terribly bad. It was a lot of fender rubbing, but not a lot of big accidents. And a lot of the drivers, because I caught up with some of them after the race and I asked them what did they think about the penalty they received. Almost every single one of them said, "Yeah, it was deserved. I get it." And I feel like putting it in the steward's hands will work out quite nicely. I'm gonna talk about something quite humorous, by the way. The last time we were doing Night Owl, the daylight savings time hadn't changed in America. And while Mike Jones and Ryan Mawson were talking a moment ago, I in my head it was still daylight out. I walked out of my broadcast room and hit my knee really hard on my banister now because it's completely dark in there. And the time change will do it to us all. But it's Night Owl in the sim. It's Night Owl in real life
Like,
as well.
you remember Kyalami, Jesse? We did the night stint at Kyalami, and then it starts coming dawn in game, and everything's like, oh wow, yeah, we're seeing light for the first time in like 8 hours in game. I've got blackout
Mm.
curtains in my broadcast room, right, with my computer, so I don't get reflections on the screen or anything like that. I got up from it dawning in South Africa at Kyalami and walked out, and I was like, wait a minute, am I like? Did I fall asleep or something? It is dark outside.
It messes
It
with
was
you.
so
It really
weird,
does.
dude. It really does.
I class
Night
it
Owl
as
messing with me today.
I class it as one of the most annoying times of year. England goes back, the times you get it where driving to work, to and from, you get it where the sun is always in your eyes when you're driving and you think you've got over it. And then daylight saving time puts it back and you have
Yep.
that sun in your eyes once again.
So Ryan Mawson,
Mike Jones.
I'm gonna throw you under the bus.
Uh-oh.
Given any incidents, of course, how does the top three finish?
I mean, you can't really fault, or you can't say that Boothby isn't going to. I think he's going to be gone. I'm going to say by lap, maybe be them. long up the field. It just,
That's why I
it
asked
just
about the top
that
three and not the
that
one.
I was gonna say that man is just going to be gone. But I'm going to say that it's going to be Savalainen and Foch. Savalainen, if he can keep it on the road, is phenomenal. The Foch can, and we have seen before, get rattled a few times, but it's always down to that point. Savalainen can also have just the worst luck known to man. Seen him in a few seasons ago. Just could not catch a break. Hopefully, the 100 Merc has found a bit of luck, and we'll see what happens as they come around two by two. First season, waiting for the green light.
So Savalainen, P2, says Ryan Mawson. Boothby going to be out in front by just the first couple laps, going to distance the field. The green flag is going to wave. Let's find out what's going to happen. Season 7 of Night Owl kicks off here at Misano. Boothby does get the good jump off the start. The Ferrari trying to poke his nose onto the outside, doesn't get it quite done yet. Relatively clean through the first couple sectors at least, but Boothby still out ahead. Foch P2, Savalainen in P3. We're back to Alex Rogers here in P8. That's Magazi out ahead and Milas back behind him. Ooh, Melis actually gets underneath him, coming in, pokes his nose in, but has to force to back out, and Rogers is going to keep that position for the moment as the leaderboard sorts itself out. Relatively clean. The 199 didn't get the best of starts. Looked like they fell off the back of the pack just a little bit, maybe got a little sideways, but they are the only one into the hairpin for the first time. And by this point, Jesse, they are more or less single file. I lied. There it is again. We've got Stachecki, and I believe that's McKelly. No, sorry, not McKelly. That's Stachecki and Payne side by side just behind. And they're going to come out onto the back straight. And I want to say I'm going to give the legs of that Audi down the back straight, but the Porsche's got some draft there from the Nissan. Gonna get it, but everybody found that single file very quickly.
Now, you had it right the first time. The Porsche does have some drip, and he's dripping on by as everybody's cycling through. You know what? It was interesting. They were completely single file, and then one car bobbled a little bit, and it stacked them up, and it's created this instance. That is what you have to worry about with a race like this. Samir Foch up front, by the way, has to have a sense of urgency. You have to think you're going to be about 2/10 slower than Boothby on a good lap. So maybe a little extra incentive to try and rattle the cage of George Boothby right now. But I think somebody else that's going to be pretty happy, the Stewards, as that looked just about as clean as you could ever want. We have a long-standing history of coming to Misano and it not being the case. Well, today, I think it might actually have been pretty good. I'm not sure who that was in the background, if that was Traffico or Vining. One car off the track rejoins. No harm, no foul as we join the 7th place position of Magazi. They're all just about the same gap away from each other, Moss.
Yeah, you got a nice little gap. I thought the Boothby might run away a little bit faster than that. He's almost got the gap up to a second, and once you break that second, break the toe, and then you can really start to run away. Coming into 3 wide into the first hairpin. That is a scary, scary moment. The 199, they had started from the back of the pack, but I believe they qualified higher. They had a problem with that car, so they're trying to get back through the field as quickly as they can. And the 199 making these early race moves.
That's Sebastian Brunier out ahead of this pack. He is looking back through the mirror going, just please don't hit me. I don't care what you guys do behind me. And so far, it's been pretty good. But there's the Porsche Cider sliding past the 14 silver car. And he's going to just pick up that position on track so he can make his way up to Sebastian Brunier and maybe get a position in class. They need to chase down 5 different cars to get up even to the tail end of the pro field. So here is Giannis for the 26. Asapolis in the flat out AMR V8 Vantage. He's at the tail end of this silver pack, and this is the man that Brunier and Cider are going to be chasing down here very briefly, as they're going to have to get past him first before they can get past Artem, Lewis, Huel, and Flamger, get up to the back of the pro field. But the silver class cars here at the front, they're looking like, again, kind of like the front of the pro class, just kind of staying single file for the moment, feeling each other out. It's the first race of the season. You know, you're not quite used to how everybody drives quite yet. Around you. Relatively familiar are these drivers with each other because a lot of them do race at Night Owl pretty consistently, but you got a new season. It's been a few weeks. You've got different cars out on the track that everybody is driving. You're going to have to feel each other out, and a track here like this at Misano is perfect for that because it's so it's so diverse. You've got those couple straights that are pretty long. You've got nice twisty corners. You've got hard braking zones, soft braking zones. It's perfect to get a little feel out of your competitors. And so far, it looks like that's what these guys are doing.
Race controller Alpha, brand new race controller, by the way, in today's race, confirming that it was indeed a mostly clean lap number one. And that's good because a lot of times we've said that we thought it was clean and it was, according to the TV cameras, but rather besides, it wasn't in the pack. So nice to have that confirmation. Only a few minor hiccups from some of the drivers, and one car going completely off there. And is that a into the pit lane is Bauer in the 22?
Early pit. Wow.
Early pit, possibly thought that they wanted to get out of any of the traffic. Maybe they thought they were being held up and didn't want to have that. That is a viable strategy if you know that you can run at a faster lap time outside of the traffic, and that is the 131. That is Thomas Pierce that has had a mistake. Samir Foch manages to get through.
Samir Foch is struggling.
He will not get it stopped for the corner. There goes the McLaren. That is the 4 of Fiercecast.
And I think that was the other way around, Moss, and I actually think it was Foch that had the original problems, and Pierce was trying to get up and pass him. And then Fazecast, who of course was labeled as a silver class, and Ted Edwards has pretty much confirmed that he will be a pro class driver from here on in Night Owl. So we're going to assume for the moment that Fazecast there on the left side of your screen, even though he has a silver banner, is a pro class car. He makes his way up onto the podium after Foch has multiple issues sliding in and out of corners. And so you're right so far that Savalainen, Mawson, needs to stay consistent, and that's what he's done. They're now 2 seconds ahead of this pack, including Foch. Maybe we won't see Boothby, Savalainen, Foch on the podium.
Well, it's actually quite simple. If the 4 gets bumped up after this race, which it could be, it's not a team championship, so there is no team sort of average speed. So Basecast could find themselves in the pro class, and what would essentially happen is you would take away the silver win and give them pro third points or wherever they would finish to keep it nice and fair. A couple other cars came down the pit lane. The 935 and the 46 also made an early pit stop. And like Mawson said, I don't hate that strategy. You only need 1 liter of fuel, random pit requirements for every race. I was told that Ryan Gill actually leaked the pit requirements before they were meant to be launched tonight. But nonetheless, it is 1 liter of fuel required. Madre in the pit lane as well. By far the furthest driver up the field to come in. Like you said, Mawson, I actually quite like that. Get yourself out of traffic.
Yeah, and this man as well, the 966, Max Payne, he'll definitely be wanting to get out of this traffic in a Ferrari sandwich, like twitching all over the curbs. And that is Trafia, that is the number 7. They wanted that, but look at the straight line speed of the GTR. Despite having the worser exit, just the GTR will just power away from you. You cannot do anything to that car in a straight line. You're only ever going to get by it in the corners.
I mean, the Audi took a look there for a split second, but it's just not even enough. You can't get underneath the GTR. It's got one job to do, and it is go fast in a straight line and have pretty decent brakes. And you know what? It's doing it so far here. I mean, he's still up in the top 10. He's in P9, even with those wiggles going on. We're going to have to see if he can keep it consistent, because the problem is if he keeps doing that, bouncing over curbs, well, he's going to eat up his tires. And the Nissan, not too easy on his tires, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, it's Mr. Lee's my father, by the way. But George Boothby in the 75 has gone to 2.2 seconds out in front of Juna Savalainen, who is fitting very nicely to second. I hate to say this, but it is eerily similar to what Mawson predicted, as several other cars coming into pit lane. Sider comes in. Oh, it taps the wall there. Nearly loses it. Does lose it. Has to get it stopped and slams into the wall. Lucas Sider sideways, and I think that's a tow. That car has towed into pit lane, so they're going to free fall through the field. An accident coming into pit road. Danger at every turn.
And he had a DT either for track limits or for speeding in the pit lane, one of the two, as he teleported back to pits, because as you teleport, it will trigger the pit exit and then pit entry. So he may have actually sped coming in after bumping into the wall as well. So Stewie is clarifying that it was actually before he entered the pit, so it was for track limit. So he had gotten a track limit penalty already 9 minutes into this race. So, Mawson, of the three of us, you're the quickest one here, handedly, right? At Misano, how
I beg your pardon.
am I wrong, Jesse Lee?
No,
Lawson, at Misano, how easy is it to get those track limit warnings when you're really pushing that hard running 33s?
Incredibly easy. There are some points on this track that will give you an automatic limit just because of the positioning of your car. Don't even have to be that you gain time. After these two fast right-hand kinks, if you run too wide there, you put the car fully over the red and white rumble strip. That's the track limit. It doesn't matter if you're fully on the brakes. It doesn't matter if you're sideways. It will give you one. And the notorious is sort of the first section, the top hat of the double right and then the left. You can quite easily end up cutting the left onto the front straight, back straight, whatever straight you want to call it. You can cut that too much. There is another track limit. They will always find a way to give you it, and that's the same as well. You can also run out too wide. It will give you another track limits there, despite those massive slowdown curves. It's not very forgiving, is Misano, for the track limits. We won in 7 minutes. I'm not overly surprised if the driver is pushing to the absolute ragged edge.
Well, a driver at the ragged edge here, Max Payne, still up in P9, trying to desperately hold on to that in his Nissan GTR. We're now back to Sir Williams for the Jux Motorsports Ferrari 488 Evo. Is number 533. He's chasing down Vining out ahead of him, the Ferrari competitor, and the man Jordan Daly out behind him as well. Daly sniffing kind of at the back of this kind of mid-pack of the pro drivers. As expected, Boothby 2.6 up, and Savalainen even 6 seconds up ahead of Facecast. So we've got P1, P2 that are just checked out at this point, and then a small grouping of cars all the way through the center of this track. These pro cars, anything could happen. There's only maybe, 10 seconds between P4 and P15? That's not anything here, even 10 minutes into the race. These guys have not spread out that much. Every single one of these cars is a potential podium finisher here today. As we're seeing another car go ahead and dip into the pit lane early. Got to drive through for an incident. And Jesse Lee, did you get a piece of paper from Mr. Elfo?
Yeah, I sure did. First of all, no further action between the 911 and the 21
there
on
it
the
is.
first lap. We're going to take a look at the accident. This, of course, a drive-through, and drive-through for car 14, taking out the 199 position not returned, and warning for car 199 for moving under braking. Escalating incident with the 14. No further action between the 14, the 199, and the 23. No further action between the 414 and the 778. But those are the only ones that have come through thus far. And we have had a couple of penalties for one drive-through was assigned by ACC for track limits. That is close to a new record. That was only 8 minutes into the race. I think that was the 911 that got a track limits one.
That was 199.
It was a 199, so it was a reverse of
So
that.
it was the same car that went ahead and retired.
Absolutely. Well, I can say we were looking at Max Payne a moment ago in the GTR, and I was just thinking, this is exactly what Max Payne does every single weekend. He qualifies okay, we'll say, and then races inside the top 10. You almost hope for Max Payne's sake, and of course we have to be impartial in the box, but the GTR, it's a fan favorite. Max Payne repping the Japanese brand, and you almost want him to have a good race because sometimes it's not the case.
No, but the man who is doing pretty well, Alex Rogers, he's 7. He's kind of in a little pocket here as well. I can't tell if he's falling off the back of me, he's catching up to him. As looking at their lap times, they've kind of been going a little bit back and forth. Rogers did set his fast lap of the race last lap, gained about 2/10 on Magazi, and he's going to be coming across the line here very shortly. Again, and he's up on his lap from the look of the board as well. That said, Magazi also doing a pretty good lap. So this 2-second gap really isn't going anywhere at the moment for Rogers and Magazi, as we're going to catch a bit of a replay here, a little bit of a dive into the hairpin, and that's going to be just a nice, easy pass going into the hairpin from Bernier there onto the Audi, and he is trying desperately to get up and slowly working his way up to the back of the pro field. He's gained 3 spots so far. Still got about 10 seconds to go to catch up. Well, 8 seconds to go to catch up to the back of the pro split. Work cut out for him, but Sebastian has done some pretty fantastic things with some strategy. We talk a lot about Bart Macha, Jesse Lee, recently about how he can really pull out a good finish out of strategy. I'd say Bruni is right up there with him.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. Moss and I always remember Super Seb, and was training up for this season, and always seems to race better than he qualifies.
Also, Seb, the other thing about Seb is he will even fight this race. He'll be gathering data. He will go away. He will like gerbil away on that car with the setup, and he will come back with some conclusion that you wouldn't have ever even thought of about the setup. Incredibly fine-tuned to that McLaren. If you want to know anything about a McLaren and all the nuances of it, go talk to Sebastian. I had a couple of words when I came to do the EWC. It was like, Sebastian, please explain to me how do you McLaren, because I cannot McLaren.
And 8 hours later.
And then 8 hours later, I ended up at Donington, still not knowing how to McLaren, so it's all good, really. I think you turn the steering wheel in a direction and it moved. And that's what I think.
You don't say.
I might be wrong, guys.
I mean, unlike the Porsche that you have to opposite turn because it's just sliding everywhere, the McLaren you sometimes do. Ooh! Well,
Speaking of...
Uh-oh. There's Max Payne. The GTR is the magnet there. He's going to go ahead and go down. Was that Vining that tapped him as well, I think? So Vining, this is like old Nissan versus the new Nissan hate crime. Yeah. Old versus new Nissan hate crime. That's what's going on here. And I'm disappointed in you, Vining.
Payne down the pit lane here, the position of his team. That's exactly what Mawson and I just got done talking about. That is Max Payne in a nutshell. Qualifies okay, races better than he qualifies. It always seems to happen to Max, and it has again today. And today it drops him out of the top 10. He comes down pit lane. Split strategy here. I think a lot of the teams out here are trying to go sort of to the middle of the race, I would say. You might see some leave it incredibly late indeed, but a lot of the middle of the pack drivers coming in. No surprise, Mawson, that they've been doing that. But again, I love that strategy, and it's really one of the easiest ways to move up here at Misano.
Absolutely. Just keeping it clean, keeping it consistent, trying to hang on to the person in front of you, especially at Misano when you've got a long back straight. You can get such a great tow, but you've got all this tow, you've got all this additional speed over the person in front of you. What are you going to do here? Samir Foch is going to go incredibly sideways here is what he's going to do, just to catch that Ferrari just about. Definitely a scary car to try and catch any of the mid-engine cars, really, once you set the balance of them. Generally, it is quite a thing you can't come back from, but managing to keep it, and that actually didn't lose much time to Facecast, only a couple of tenths of a second. Facecast must be looking in his mirror thinking, how can I ditch this man?
And the thing is as well, for the Ferrari, it's so good on its tires that even if you do slip and slide just a little bit, not going to affect you as much as, say, if you're slipping and sliding around in the McLaren constantly, or the Honda, or the Nissan. So Foch, having that little bit of an issue, he should still be fine. Losing a couple tenths really isn't anything. He didn't lose a position out of it, and that's the big thing. We've got 42 minutes to go. They've got pit stops to happen here. Realistically, if Foch can come in, nail his pit stop, he could probably just get out ahead of Facecast right away, just by sheer getting his pit stop better. And Foch is pretty good at his pit stops. I'll hand him that. So, as long as he can continue that streak of coming in, nailing the pit stop, he'll at least get back out on the podium. But that said, I don't think there's a chance in P2 for him in the cards at all, as they are now almost 10 seconds back, 8.799 at that timing marker right there, and subsequently 4.2 back from the leader, Jesse.
Well, something's going on with Samir Foch's car. I think it's clear that Ferrari didn't look anything like that in qualifying, looked very poised, and was only about 2/10 slower than your leader Boothby, but something's going on. That car is sliding around. They've lost a couple of positions doing that, and even just trying to follow other cars, the back end of that car sliding. And actually another Ferrari doing that, that's Thomas Pearson, the 131, doing the same. Maybe that's conditional of the Ferrari here. What do you know, Ryan Mawson?
Well, I do know that the Ferrari, the one thing it does not like is aero wash. When you're running this close to people in front of you, there are some cars that deal with the dirty air a little bit better. The Ferrari definitely not being one of those. It would start to slide out here. And this was the race replay from 114 took out their fellow Audi, and that is the reason they have got the drive through.
Currently waiting on Alpha to give us the adjudication on the incident with mining and pain as well. I'm sure they're taking a look at that one, if they're going to cause any penalty for that. Wasn't a huge hit, but definitely enough that they both lost a little bit of time and maybe a little bit of damage got exchanged. Maybe they'll slap a quick 5 on Vining for it. Maybe they won't. Obviously, with the new stewarding rules, they're allowed to give a little bit more room for those kind of like minor contacts, not causing too many issues or anything. As we're going to catch another replay here. This is the Lambo going around. He got a little sideways coming out of the hairpin, and that Ferrari just really didn't have anywhere to go, to be honest. I mean, that looked like that was the Lambo getting sideways. I don't know that I can fault the Ferrari for that, Jesse. I mean, where are you going to go?
Well, I mean, even more to the fact where you're going to go, but that is such a dangerous place to sit on the racetrack. Not that they had a choice at all in the matter. Certainly they didn't, but that is such a scary place. You never want to be facing the wrong direction. Certainly don't want to be facing the wrong direction on the apex, on the exit of a corner, because even if cars wanted to miss you, if they don't see you in time, they do not have the opportunity to do so. But on that occasion, I think everybody able to get around. Mellis in the 15 Ferrari has ducked down pit lane. So has Daly in the 197 as pit stops continuing. This is uncommon for us. It's uncommon in general that you see a strategy like this where they're coming in at just random intervals. Normally it's a pack at the front, a pack in the middle, a pack late, and then the incredibly late pitters a lap or two before the end of the race. But this has been consistent throughout this race. They've been coming down pit lane.
If some of the people are just trying to feel out some of the cars with the various strategies and what can and can I not get away with? You know, if you're in traffic and you're not necessarily gaining on anything in the person in front of you, you might just think, well, let's try something new. Yeah, a lot of these drivers, they've dipped away from the cars that they have named, trying something a greener paddock may it be, but it could be that. It could also be just they're wanting to get out of the traffic. Everyone else has got that exact same idea, so it'll just bunch everybody back up eventually.
Yeah, I've been doing some cheating on the some of the leaders as well. I can confirm that Boothby, Foch, and Rogers look like they will all be pitting at the end, as they are full fuel still at the moment. They've got 24 to 27 laps between them still remaining on fuel, so almost all these guys actually over-fueled, considering we're just about here halfway through the race and only 13 laps down. 14 laps down, sorry, as they cross the line. Here's a bit of a replay, by the way. The Nissan going deep into the corner, trying to get past. A little bit of contact there on the out, but nothing too major. Just a little wheel-to-wheel racing. And the Nissan going to try and jump out ahead. And I think he did actually end up with that position in the end. He did. So Payne getting out ahead of one of the silver class drivers, Artem, after he's come out of the pit lane. But yeah, I find that interesting, guys, that all three of these guys seem to be over-fueled for the race.
Over fuel possibly, but once again, like I said, maybe trying to just work out. There'll be plenty of tracks where the cars will burn a lot more fuel, and necessarily might want to see how it does on a higher fuel. See if going long is the strategy, or if you want to down the middle, take the time in the pit stop, that extra 10, 15, however much fuel car. If you can gain it back, if the lap times are just incredible when it's on that low fuel setting. And looking in the background, that is Thomas Pierce again. That is a wiggle coming out of the final corner, which is so easy to do. You can see the anti-cut curbs, launches the front, catches the splitter, and there you go.
Ooh.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse, but that'll do nothing to help your downforce around this racetrack, but a decent save nonetheless. speaking of Ferraris, we were waiting what the stewards would say about the contact between the 113 of Vining and the 966 GTR Max Pay. They, of course, as you can see on your screen, have determined 15-second penalty for car 113, taking out the 966. Position is returned. So, usually, folks, in past seasons, that would only have been a 5-second penalty. And of course, accidents judged harsher now, as very much the drivers should know better in the case of the stewards. So 15-second penalty for the 113. That would have been a drive-through or worse had the position not been returned. So we talked about in the pre-race about the stricter penalties for causing an accident, and there you have it.
Well, Matt Ardham, one of the silver drivers who is not pit yet, silver class field has more or less kind of sorted itself out throughout the track. Ardham about 3 seconds behind the 14 of Kirchhoff up ahead of him. And then there's quite a bit of gap up to Lewis and the leaders of the silver class field. That said, he's got a bit of a gap behind him as well, about 5.5 seconds back before he hits Merdries of the 46. So Ardham just kind of in this little pocket. That is a pro class car out behind him that has already pit. And at this point, Ardham is probably.
Oh, no!
Well, I was going to say Ardham should probably just let the Lambo by, but it would seem that McKelly did not want to wait. And Ardham goes around. Ooh, bit of a awkward rejoin there as well. That Ferrari, I believe that's Mellis. Yeah, I think that's going to be Mellis. That's rough. You're trying to keep your pace up so you can catch up the guys ahead, and then you have another class car take you out.
We're gonna take a look the drive-through penalty that had just come through.
Yep,
we saw that live. That's the replay, and of course the result is very simply drive-through penalty for car 533 for taking out the 18 position not returned. So there you have it. As Ryan Gill would like to say, that's pretty slam dunk.
Pretty much so, and the stewards, some things that we don't catch on the broadcast, the stewards' eagle eyes, you cannot hide anywhere on this racetrack from them. The 533 coming from their drive-through immediately, just get it out, get it done, hopefully get back out on the track. You don't want to be amassing any of the drive-throughs too often as well, because now with the it is after 2 drive-throughs, be disqualified due to license points. Am I right?
I believe that is correct, because it should be 6. Tom can confirm that in the chat, but it should indeed be 6 points, and a drive-through is worth 3. So if you get 2 of them, you will get removed out and disqualified from the race, and you'll be edging ever so closer to getting disqualified from the championship, as well as you only get, I believe we're at 5 races, so I think it's a 10-point limit for the championship. Again, Tom can confirm that in the chat here in a moment. But yeah, as you get closer and closer to it, you got to be careful, and that's part of the thing of us changing the rules as well, is that means that unsafe drivers that are getting multiple incidents through a race will get removed as well, to make sure that they are not causing further problems, whereas it was a little bit more difficult to do that in the past, and usually when we did, it was because somebody was excessively driving bad. But now that window is just opened up a little bit further, and we'll make sure that people, if they're driving badly, that we're going to get them out of there and make sure that everybody else is enjoying their race. And much like these guys right here, Daly and the Volley, I think they're very much enjoying themselves. As I know Daly, he absolutely loves defending from somebody behind. He's damn good at it, and I think that he's having the time of his life right now.
I was just reminded of the time that Seb Vettel almost got suspended from F1 for reaching the maximum amount of points on his super license. We all forget that nearly happened to him when he was sort of at his peak, so to speak, or perhaps he was coming down just a little bit. Of course, with stricter penalties, that also means more license points that you will generally gain as well. So something to consider as a little bit of a spin here as well. And I'm pretty sure that that will be another inquiry. The only one since then is no further action for minor contact between the 414 and the 966. Those two have had contact again.
That'll have been a scary moment for Goofy. He came round the corner as the leader of the race, and there's a Ferrari pointing backwards at you. It's not necessarily what you exactly want to see in the mirror, but not as affected his pace at all. Simply picked it up, drove round it, and is carrying on this monumental charge. He's now got 7 seconds, over 7 seconds. Let's have a Linen and driver who, we will always say, look at the pace of this man. Well, now we can say, look at the pace of this man for the 75.
Well, Sebastian Brunier currently defending his overall P10 for the moment. While he's definitely made up a little bit of time, he's obviously not made his pit stop yet, as Giannis getting so close to the back of the 769 720S. And this is a silver class car, I remind you, that's currently fighting Seb. And I almost think that Giannis might be a little bit quicker than Seb here. Seb just doing a bit of a struggle here at Misano in the opening round of Night Owl Season 7. And a bit unexpected from him. Kind of like I said earlier, it's unexpected. I'm surprised at Seb, but I do know that the McLaren, this isn't necessarily the best track for it, bop-wise, if I'm not mistaken. Mawson might be able to help me correct on that. But either way, I'm sure that Seb, he's going to be looking forward to the rest of the season, as I know there's a couple McLaren tracks coming up that he's going to enjoy.
Yeah, I think Misano is not its strong suit. I think it kind of would be, because the car, it does really like a lot of the downforcey tracks when you've got some airflow over the car. It comes alive, but it just seems that Misano, there's too many slow speed sections, a lot like this Sector 1, where the Aston Martin's poking his nose up the inside as the 778, possibly trying to get the better run out. And here we go, here comes the Aston Martin. Now that it's finally got the turbos wound up, it will be a drag race down the front straightaway to the second hairpin. Just about enough room for another coat of paint in there, boys, and the 778 gets the back done. Compromises his exit. Now Sebastian Brunier, they have the better run, but he's on the outside of this hairpin. It is a long old way to go all the way around the outside. Seb's trying for the cutback, and it'll be possibly another drag race if he can get the run.
That's what makes it so frustrating racing against Seb Brunier. Tassopolis clearly had the faster car, and that's interesting. A car stopping on the racetrack looked like they were fine a corner ago, and then having to reset into the pit lane. Seb Brunier is off the course. Seb Brunier off. Is there contact here? Now this is the back straightaway that is anything but straight. There is contact, and it sends Seb Brunier. He was trying to stuff it up the inside, didn't have the room, ends up in the grass. Position conceded officially now. Tassopolis in front, and now Seb Brunier down the pit lane, perhaps a bit wisely.
Well, that might end up resolving that battle for Brunier through the remainder of the race, as those tires are not going to be perfectly round after that. That was a big old slide, and that is not what you want to see in the McLaren 720S. That said, he is making his long trip out of the pit lane right now, and he's going to shuffle back to around, I believe, P16, P17. Should come out around the spot that Jordan Daly and the Volley are in at the moment, which means that, again, he has definitely picked up quite a bit of positions through the race, but just not quite enough to get himself up into the top 10 marker, and especially after that little incident. I'm very curious to see what the stewards think about it, because it's difficult to see from the TV cameras, but did he really have the nose under him? Did the other guy cut down on him? Did maybe he make a bit of an opportune dive, and the stewards are going to look at it as a no further action? We don't really know. However, Jonas Stavalainen just came out of the pit lane. I did not see Alpha bring you a slip of paper, Jesse Lee. Does that mean he sped in the pit lane?
Yeah, there's nothing on the board from Alpha or anybody else, Mike. That is going to be speeding in the pit lane. Did not have the limiter on, either coming in or leaving. It is so easy here on pit exit to get the limiter wrong, because there's several lines, and it's actually quite a bit longer than you expect it to be. You're actually basically back on the racetrack before you release. He could have just gotten it a little bit early, and a stop and go 30 for what was your second place car. Won't be second after that penalty.
And what did we say? That Savalainen this is the thing. The car and this driver have amazing pace. It is incidents and small things like this that every single time. Saw a couple of seasons ago where this driver seemed to be plagued by problems like this, or having small spins and such. Just hoping that this season not gonna this isn't gonna set the precedent for it.
By the way, Mike Jones was right about something earlier. He was worried about the 414's rejoin. A warning for the 414 for a dangerous rejoin on track. Eagle-eyed Mike Jones tonight.
But that said, the incident that was directly before that, very obviously not his fault, and the 18 did receive a drive-through penalty for it. So, bit of a bad rejoin, and the stewards are very particular on that, especially since Tom's head stewarding. I know that he's very particular on it. It's something I'm very particular on as well. So the head stewards and the stewards in general, but the head stewarding team, we all have our niches, right? Where we're very particular about certain things. In one of Tom's is definitely rejoins. And I appreciate that about him because it's one of my things that I really look at as well, that flag infringement. And so I'm glad to see that either way, the 414 did get a warning, even though it was heartbreaking that it got himself taken out. Just kind of in a bad position. But in the end, 18 did get a DT for the incident itself, and Fosh, after the incident with Savalainen, who has parked himself in the pit lane. At this point, I do not think that he's going to rejoin the race circuit. Well, Fosh has been promoted back up to that podium, and we're going to see him now be able to take those P3 points. But Facekas still on the back of him, and now Fosh is going, E2's looking really nice. And he might push even a little bit harder than he was to get up at the podium.
Is it Facekas? Fazekas? I'm going to say Fazekas because in my head, that makes more sense. And that very well might be wrong. Please do tell us if you are the driver of the number 4 car and we are wrong. We do apologize. We are yet simple American Yankee Doodles and one Crown loyalist. I think. Ryan Mawson, do you take offense to that?
And one tea drinking like empirist. I'm gonna get my tea and my crumpets out and on monocle. Where have I put my top hat, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm going to get my cheeseburger and my F-150 because, that's America. And we continue on. This broadcast not brought to you by F-150 at all. It showed up all this week. It is a bit of a joke amongst some of the RCI staff, the F-150. Of course, Forza, the series coming out, and F-150s galore. It's a joke, almost as much big as the Willys Jeep at this point. But I digress. If you've seen that show up all week and you're very confused, it is a joke. And we're humoring ourselves. We like to have a little bit of fun around.
Yeah, I surprisingly even was enjoying Forza a little bit. I haven't got a chance to drop back in since the other night when I first started. Yeah, since the other night, I haven't had a chance to get back into it. So I do D&D on Friday nights, and I won't have D&D tonight, so I might be jumping in and checking that out a little bit more. But yeah, it's very very enjoyable little game. I like it a lot better than 4. So it's been pretty fun. Jordan Daly still defending from the valley there as we're watching that Porsche kind of chase down the back of him. We're going to jump back a couple positions back further and get a bit of a replay here of a little bit of a dive. Oh, not a little bit of a dive. That's a big old dive as they come into the hairpin, and you can see him flashing the lights. My bad. And going ahead and backing out there. The Ferrari diving hard under Sebastian Bernier. The 21 going, yep, my bad, here you go, and backing back out. And I think the stewards will go, yep, racing incident. You did right. You backed out. But yeah, that was opportune, I'm gonna say.
Easy to pull that move. I've done it myself nearly. When you think, yeah, I'm gonna go for this move. What you don't really know though is the braking distance of how long it actually takes to get your car stopped, and you're still trying to turn into the apex. Once you've kind of committed to that move, you quickly realize, oh wait, this is going to go incredibly wrong.
And you can't stop.
No, you can't do anything in that situation. But the 21 backing out of it and respectfully saying, yep, I did a whoopsie. Like I said, I wouldn't be lying if I said I haven't done that move myself.
I've done that in the rain quite a few times, but I love Misano in the rain. So.
I gotta say though, Seb Bernier flashing the lights furiously
Oh no,
after
that was the
that
Ferrari
attempt.
flashing the lights.
Oh, excuse me. That's right.
Yeah.
That was Ollie Jars, in fact, in the
Oh,
21.
oh, in
Ollie
apology.
Jars
Oh,
flashing.
speaking of
Oh no!
which,
And it's
he
coming
did it
contact
again. He
again.
did it
This
again.
time again. Marcin Ollie Jars with the dive, getting down in there. Position taken away. Let's look at this again. Is it going to be licking the stamp and sending it? It is. The door's open. The
Ah,
door closes. Marcin Ollie Jars doesn't care. Takes it and the
now Seb's
flashing
flashing the lights.
again. That time by Seb Brunier and well, probably in some colorful French language that we cannot say on this broadcast.
That one's going to be the penalty. The first one, racing incident. That's going to be a penalty for Ollie Jars.
Oh man, I don't know.
Man.
I don't know how close is it. I'm glad about Stewart. They'll look at the throttle traces. They'll take due care in deciding on what needs to be done on that. Of course, Ollie Jars thinks that was completely fine. Seb Brunier doesn't. And of course, look at this now. Brunier is back in front of the 21 again. So maybe the 21 trying to appease the stewards here, trying to trying to get around still. Very close indeed. Clearly, the 21 is a little bit quicker here. Ryan Mawson, close racing, a little bit too close.
I think Sebastian is wishing that he wasn't in front as much as it would be nice to get the position back. I think Seb's probably looking in his rearview mirror, thinking, "Would this Ferrari just go away?" But it is close racing, but you sometimes have to pick your move, and rarely have I seen it come off coming into these two fast right sections. It's just gonna, as well, it's damaging both of those cars more and more, which will make a move into that section even harder. Except with the rear damage, and the Ferrari will slowly and surely eat away at his front aero.
Well, here we are back over to another McLaren getting chased down. This time by a Porsche. We've been keeping an eye on this battle for about the past 15 minutes or so. Daly, the volley getting a little close to Daly on the exit of that corner. Had to back out a little bit. Here's another ongoing battle. Williams stuck in the middle of a big old chunk of silver cars. But the problem is he can't necessarily let the silver car by, as this is Pim. Oh, no, never mind. Pim is now directly behind him. Throws it down into the hairpin, and Pim is going to have to back out. Fuel doing a great job dodging that Aston Martin as he saw the dive coming through. And that's going to mean that he's going to have that little bit of a buffer again as Sebastian Brunier pulls over and lets Ollie Jars by. And Mawson, what was it you said a minute ago? I think you spoke it into him.
I think exactly that. It's like partly like, you can commentators curse things. I think now we're just getting into the mind of drivers. Seb has decided that you know what, this is not worth my race, and sometimes you do have to make that call, even if it is a pro class versus a pro class. I have had it before a few times where you've got to think that this man is going to end not just my race but our race. It is sometimes better to back off and let the stewards deal with it, especially that they've had both of those incidents together. If they get a penalty, it might not mean anything in the end.
Racing is sometimes about that, isn't it? It's a give and take, and you have to make a determination. Is it worth it? If you get a particularly aggressive driver, sometimes it is just better to let them go than to risk it. And they got away with it twice as well, Mike, didn't they? Where they had contact, they slowed each other down, got damaged surely from those contacts. At some point, you have to do a risk assessment. Seb Brunier does a risk assessment and lets the car go. And yeah, that's less points that he will get. But even still, it's better than being out of the race entirely. The 4 in pit lane, who we suspect will get bumped up into the pro class after race 1. And so we are treating them as such. Pit's one of the final cars that haven't pitted up at the front of the grid. So Fazekas in and out. And here's the gap to Samir Foch in the 888 Ferrari, where after a rocky early start, I feel like Foch has kind of gathered it all back up, and Foch does go through and takes that position back.
Leave the 4 actually lost the cars.
Oh!
Right, hang on.
Oh dear. Drive-through penalty for Thomas Pearson, the 131. And we know Vining has the 15-second penalty, and those cars still yet to pit. Meanwhile, Azeka's here racing really hard, trying to get around the.
It's
Who
a
is
lap
that?
car.
Is
It's a
that?
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that
that's
is a lap
Bauer.
car.
That's
No, that's
power.
Is
Bauer.
that
That's
Bauer?
22.
That
Yeah,
is
that's 22.
Bauer in the Honda.
Yeah, so I was looking at the pit deltas, and it does look like the Facecast did have a reasonably slow pit stop, but I don't know how he managed to lose that much time. The Foch overall must have had a very bad couple laps stuck in traffic, and now he's all the way down fighting for what is still effectively P3 once Pierce and Vining do serve their penalties. So this is now a podium fight for these guys at this point. Foch now 2.5 seconds ahead after the pit stop, so Foch took an absolute perfect time to pit and has made up that gap. And now Fazekas and Bauer, well, they've got to fight for the podium. So we've had now what 5 different like podium fighters during this race.
Oh
Savalainen, of course,
dear.
eating himself off of it, and we're just gonna keep going. And we're gonna, I don't know. I mean, Fazekas has obviously got the pace. What do you guys think? I mean, can he get past the Honda? He's only got 15 minutes.
Well, very quickly, I'm going to let Ryan
Oh, there
Lawson
it is.
answer that, but I also have to point out drive-through penalty for car 21, taking out the 15, position not given back. 5-second penalty to car 39, unpredictable driving under blue flags, leading to avoidable
Oh,
contact. Additional penalty, 5 seconds for car 100, avoidable contact with a parked car.
yep. I mean, that's fair. Again, you've got to. He was parked there for a long time, right? And trying to avoid getting in anybody's way. Got to pay attention to flags. That's flag infringement for you, Mawson.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, going back to the sort of the original question, one thing I will say, would you have ever considered a Honda as the the podium setter at
Hey,
Misano? It's
hey,
No.
just
hey, 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 hey,
No,
hey,
absolutely not. No matter what
Mawson,
Mike Jones is about to say, Ryan
Mawson.
Mawson, no, I
No,
would
no, no,
not.
I'm gonna mute both of you. I have the power to
he's,
do that.
he's gonna pull
It's
our
going to be very
microphones.
lonely if you do.
it's just one of the cars, you rarely see this being driven anymore, really, in anger, is the Honda. It comes out at certain tracks, it has its golden moments, but through seasons, it's sort of one that just a few of
Oh,
the
it's
long-time
difficult.
favorites of it drive.
It's very difficult.
But Bauer doing a great job of that, managing to get all the way up there. Can he hold off the 4? He's only got 13 minutes left. If you can be an incredible defensive driver, which he must have been to keep the position as soon as he'd got by, you can see these two are still nose to tail. You can hold it around Misano for a long, long time.
And in the end, here's the thing about the Honda. It is fast. We all know that this Honda can be very quick. The problem is, can you keep a hold of it for an hour? And if you can, how are your tires? Because usually that's the problem with it, is even if you can get quick in this thing, it will eat its tires and chew them into little tiny squares, and you'll be rumbling around the track like you've got a PS4 controller in your hand set to vibrate. That's what it feels like. I just want to point that out there. Why? Because I've done that before, Jesse, and you've seen.
I have as well. You've actually live commentated your races a few times before
While,
letting
while
us
I
know
was having it, yeah.
what was going on. And I love that driver perspective. The 414 is not going to like this. 2 warnings in a row for dangerous driving under blue flags. The second warning up to a 5-second penalty. That is standard. That hasn't been changed in the rule book. That's always been it. You get 2 warnings, it turns into a 5-second penalty. And also a warning for car 21 for braking too late, hitting the 769. Position given back and nothing else lost. So that's the first time the 769 and the 21 got together. No penalty for that one, but 15-second penalty for car 21. Brakes too late and hard, taking out the 769.
And
Position
that's
given
after the
back,
drive-thru.
15-second penalty. Right you are.
That is sort of their race effectively, because all these time penalties as well will be added on to the end of the race time, considering they've completed the pit stops. If you've not completed your pit stop yet, that time will have been added on to their pit delta. You might be able to race it back, but now that is going to be added on to the end of their race time. They will have to serve that. The other thing as well, I was thinking about the Honda, a good analogy for it, and I think you'll probably agree with this, Mike. It feels like the engine is just too fast for the chassis. The engine has all of
Yeah.
this fantastic power, all of this great torque, and it's nice, smooth, lovely power delivery from that V6 turbo. But it just feels like you've planted, a Saturn V rocket in a shopping trolley.
You're not wrong. And that's really what it is. Is it just it doesn't feel like it has the handling needed for the amount of power it has. 'Cause you can't stomp on the throttle in that car, much like you can take the 720S. So, Austin, obviously you've joined in replacement of me almost. My team for Endurance World Cup, right? Or Endurance World Challenge, and we're in that 720, and so you've driven it a little bit now. You can pretty much just stomp on the throttle and not think about it in that car. The Honda, relatively similar size, you can't do it in that car. You will have no grip.
No, and it will very easily, come to bite you. Yeah, the 720, probably one of the more forgiving mid-engine cars. It's probably as well why we see a lot of them. It can be whatever you want it to be. I find the McLaren, you can either have it quite safe and soft, and it will lovely laps every time, or you can give it to the likes of Boothby, who will turn it into this maniacal knife edge machine. But if you can hang on to that, the pace is incredible. But speaking of Boothby as well, the gap becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. That man has obviously got to grips with his Porsche around here and doing very, very well. You can't fault that.
He's still
Well,
running 33s, Jesse.
yeah, he sure is. And you know what's happening up front. So let's talk about what's happening in silver. Pay no mind to the number 4 of Fazekas. That car, mid race, has been upgraded to the Pro Class. They are a Pro Class car, no matter what their number placard says. Next week, we promise you, it will be a white background. But for now, they are considered a Pro car. This is only the second time in RCI history that I'm aware of that mid race, a car has been upgraded to a different class. A lot of times it happens after the race. Sometimes it's by committee, sometimes it's by choice. This time it is by committee and it's mid race. So, very interesting times indeed. Fazekas might be okay with that considering the relative pace that they have. So, let's talk about the high silver class, the 778 of Tassopolis leading the high silver class over Flamger in second, and Huel in the 548, whom I've never seen before, is running in a top 3 position in that class. And as we're talking about that, the big send by Thomas Pierce around the outside of Tyler Jason LaValle and just about gets it done, taking it by 4th. 12th place for Thomas Pierce.
Yeah, that was a nice little send too. He really placed it down on the apron and threw himself around on the outside of the next corner. So an excellent pass by Pierce, and it's very obvious that he has the pace on LaValle. Of course, both of these guys have at some point made it past Jordan Daly. Do we have do you on your replay tool there, Stewie? Maybe have the 935-197 overtake that did happen at some point, because we were keeping an eye on that battle. We'll see if Stewie can cue that up. But in the meantime, Himlot, of course, our silver class P2. Stewie does say no, we don't have that replay. So, unfortunate. But so Pimlot, P2 in the silver class, decided to bump himself up to pro class for this season. Doing not fantastically in the pro class, but then this is not the track for the Aston Martin either. It really isn't that strong because the Aston Martin just doesn't have any legs coming out of a corner. So I'm very curious to see how the Aston does for the remainder of the season. But Pim still in the top 20. That said, he's not in last in the pro class field by any means. So still doing pretty well. But here is our battle of the end of the race. Realistically, this is for the final podium position. Once Chris Vining serves his 15-second penalty, he will be behind these cars, as he still has to make his pit stop. Boothby does as well. It doesn't matter. He's still way out ahead. But number 4, he finally gets under him. He's under the 22 as they're coming back out onto the back. Oh, no, there it is. The little bit of a touch from Bauer. He knocks him off track. That's going to be Fazekas thrown off track out of the little bus stop section. And we're going to watch that one more time. In through the right-hander. Fazekas tries to come out and kind of mush the Honda to the left side of the track. The Honda wasn't having any of it. Comes over, gives him a little bit of a bump, and now they are nose to tail once again with the 4 having to chase down the 22. But again, the podium finish here, it's going to be interesting. Here's another replay. What are we looking at, Jesse?
We're looking at a couple of cars getting together, and in fact, the Porsche does get through, but only after just a little bit of contact. Of course, that was a blue flagged car, but nonetheless, Madre and the 911 does in fact get through to continue their pursuit of Alex Rogers in the seventh place. I have been told the 18 was given a drive-through penalty. That is an ACC assigned penalty for track limits. Is the season and the time of the race. Final 5.5 minutes here, just about 1:20 a.m. in sim time, and apparently in reality at Misano, Italy. And we are racing to the checkered flag of race one. There's a lot to digest in this one, as Boothby has utterly dominated out front, but it is going to be a very interesting high silver championship, I feel. And what of Samir Foch and some of the others? Will they be able to take the fight to Boothby on some of the other tracks? Foch, who looked incredibly shaky early, got it under control and has been nothing but stellar ever since. And it is looking like they are going to take home second place. Juna Savalainen, who was up there early, ended up having a couple of incidents and would later park the car. An all too familiar finish for the 100. But I digress. Williams finds himself in a bit of a sandwich as well, trying to get by Seb Brunier while not letting Neil Pimlott behind him by anyway. And look at this, down into turn one, aggressive move to the inside. Thinks better of it. Calmer heads prevail, and they go single file through the 1, 2, 3 section. Boothby, by the way, that is the car coming out of the pit lane, completing their stop. The only other car that hasn't is Vining, who has an additional 15-second penalty. They will fall, best I can tell, outside the top 5 in Pro. But Boothby comes into pit lane. Yes, indeed. Boothby comes out of pit lane and is clear back into the lead. No problems.
One thing I have noticed, which I will point out as well, and I found quite humorous. Have you noticed how the I think it's the Lumi rank that they call it, the 3 numbers on the driver's on the windscreen on the I think it's the passenger side for his car. For Boothby, it shows your 3 initials of the driver. Well, for Boothby, it just constantly flashes boo.
Boo.
So he's just booing everyone that is in
Nobody
front
gonna tell
of
him Halloween was a couple weeks ago. There goes the Ferrari again down to the inside of Sebastian Brunier as they're coming down to the hairpin section. This is where Sebastian's had his problems with cars. There's Pimlott out behind us. Jesse says the tap from the Ferrari again.
Oh, no.
Sebastian gets taken out for the 3rd time going into the hairpin. This man is going to have PTSD on the hairpin at Misano. That is the 3rd time he has been bumped. He lost 2 positions out of that as well. The Pimlott did go ahead and get on by him, and Sebastian, it's just heartbreaking to see him constantly shoved around, being treated like a pinball here at Misano this evening. The stewards are going to look at that again. I'm sure a penalty is going to come out, but Sebastian just not having the race that he really needed to have. He was already struggling a little bit on pace tonight. He got himself up so far up the track based on consistency, keeping himself clean, and he keeps getting knocked around and shoved on back, and that's just heartbreaking to see. 2.5 minutes left on the race. He's down another 10 seconds or so. This battle, though, is still not resolved for that final podium. Vining has indeed come into the pit lane, and actually, he's fallen down to P15, a little bit farther back than I thought he was going to, so he's all the way back to 15th, Jesse.
Yeah, he sure is. He's fallen way outside the top 10 and just hanging on to the top 15. Don't worry about George Boothby. 23.5 seconds up the road in the 75 Porsche. He is gone, and barring some late race heroics or snafus, 75 is going to win this race. I feel like I've said that a lot in the recent weeks here at RCI TV, and indeed I have. But this is the battle, folks. The battle for 3rd. Ignore the silver marker on Fazikas's car. This is going to be, and has already been, promoted to a pro car. Bauer, Fazekas, a race for 3rd place. Ryan Mawson, who's your money on?
It's going to be an absolute down to the wire. I think looking where Boothby is now, you will get one more lap of this as the white flag is waved. Leader is on the final lap. I mean, look at the straight line speed of the Honda. All he has to do is keep it so that Sector 1, Sector 2 just needs to keep that McLaren behind. You can't do anything to that car on the back straights, and I'm pretty sure that Bauer will know this. He will need to be on his A game with the defense coming into sector one. You just can't let the McLaren get alongside you again.
Here they go on to the final lap. This is going to be it for Fazekas. Can he get past the 22 of Bauer? We're not going to find out quite yet as we're flipping over to Timothy Flamger out in the mid pack. He's fighting for a pro and silver class fight here, more or less. This is 4 cars stacked up all together. There's the Aston running wide. That's Pimlott just kind of realizing, you know what? This is a full silver class battle. We're on the last lap. I'm not catching the guy in front. Why don't you guys go ahead and go out and have some fun? Pim dips off, realizing that Seb is gone already. Oh, and actually, hang on, Pim is stopping. I'm wondering if he's going back to fish for a Brunier because he doesn't feel like he should deserve that position after how he was taken out. I think that's what's happening, but we'll come back to that in a second. The silver class battle here still kind of happening. Oh, no, that wasn't. Wait, was that Giannis, Dewey, that dipped back? Wait a minute, what happened to Giannis? Did he run out of fuel? Giannis might be out of fuel.
Tesopoulos is still going around the track.
Very slowly, though. He might be out of fuel. He might be running out. He might have one more lap, and he might be running out. But Boopy does take the line, so that is race over. I think Giannis was running out of fuel, and he had to stop.
Oh my goodness! What just happened there? Fazekas has had a contact with Bauer. Bauer goes off in the 3rd sector here. We got a replay. This is coming to the line on chrome horn used by Barnabas Fazekas. And the stewards won't like that very much, but at the line, it will be the 4 car in 3rd place, pending post-race stewarding. I haven't got to say that in quite a long time. Pending post-race stewarding, George Boothby wins it in the 75 Porsche. He's learning the Porsche, and he's absolutely loving it. He's 2 for 3 in RCI races over the past 7 days. An excellent job by him. Samir Foch with a brilliant recovery finishes 2nd, and Fazekas does take home 3rd, pending post-race stewarding. Magazi 4th, Bauer, your top 5, Rogers, Madre, Ulrich, Trafka, Stakecki, your top 10 as they come to the line. And oh, by the way, Timothy Flamger, we have missed something quite amazing. Timothy Flamger is going to come across the line and win in high silver. Tesopoulos has fallen off quite a bit, and there he is. Timothy Flamger, the Maverick Maniacs, has won it in high silver. Huel in the 548 comes home 2nd. Tesopoulos in the 778, with whatever was ailing that car, has come home 3rd in high silver. Mayhem in the final moments. The top 3, the podium positions changing for both classes, guys. Your results confirmed, and I say again, pending post-race penalties. Guys, final thoughts.
Well, Muzz, I think Fazekas is probably going to end up with a drive-through penalty after that incident. We'll have to see what the stewards say, but that's going to put him pretty far down the field in the post-race results. That might mean that Magazi has taken the podium position for the first race here at Season 7 Night Owl. Austin, how many seasons of Night Owl have you commentated on so far now, after taking over for Lyshin?
I think, what did we end in Season 4, was it? I can't actually. I actually can't remember. Right? I think it might be 3 or 4. Yeah.
So you are now on what is effectively your 4th and a half season, if we count the summer series. Did the first race of the 7th season really live up to the namesake? Because we always kind of tout this as one of our best races. Whether it's the fastest race or something is something to be debatable. It's not. But it's some of our best races, and we had action for a full hour.
Absolutely, and around Misano, this is a track where a lot of drivers don't necessarily. It's not their favorite track. I know a lot of people, they say that you can't have good racing here, and that there is a one line to that. I say absolute wash, because we just had non-stop action, people going too wide. The amazing battle between the McLaren and the Honda, the 2 completely different cars at the front and the back of the race. it was just mayhem, and yeah, lived up definitely to its name. But for the 75, it's been a I would say that's been a bit of a breeze, really. He's sort of just got some data for his Porsche.
And that's pretty much it. And Jesse, of course, you've been here for, well, this is your seventh and a half season because we did one at RLM before we came to RCI. Night Owl never seems to disappoint. I'm looking forward to Bathurst next week. I can flip that on during the SRO Laguna race. That, of course, you will be commentating on the back half next week, directly after Night Owl, or even partway through Night Owl. And I'll be over there doing race direction for that. Ryan Mawson, Stewie will be joining you next week. Maybe me or Mr. Gill will be jumping in and being here for the fun of it as well. But a fantastic race, and I'm glad to at least get involved into one of these races for Night Owl, even if I can't be here for the rest of them. It's been a great race. Thank you guys for having me. Austin, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Jesse Lee, what do we got coming up this week?
Well, of course, we have a whole slate of excellent races coming up for you this week, starting on Monday, the continuation of the Porsche Cup, that with Ryan Gill, of course. On Thursday, the GT4 Championship hotting up in its third round, I believe. Myself, Tim Peck, and Christian Stricker on the call for that. And of course, this coming Friday, the Friday GT3 Championship that left Mawson and me kind of on pins and needles in that race a little bit, as it was a tale of two different halves with the changing weather. That series will continue on Friday with Mawson and myself. And of course, in some configuration, we will be back next Saturday for round two of Night Owl. And if it's anything like tonight has been, going to be a fantastic affair with late race drama throughout, as is the standard with the Night Owl season. We'd like to thank all of our partners that make this race and every race possible. Driver 61, you can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code, driver61.com. And if it can make Mike Jones a better driver, it can make you
Hey,
a better driver as well. A big thank you to AK Informatica for providing the servers, and you can use our Fanatec affiliate link when you make purchases on fanatec.com. It doesn't cost you anything, and it could help us with things like server costs. We do appreciate you using our affiliate link. A big thank you to Race Department for backing us, as well as simracing.gp as well. You can get some excellent racing over at simracing.gp, and it's free to sign up and race. Excellent stuff, excellent scenes tonight. Late race drama with the podiums in both classes changing hands. I'm glad there's a week between now and then. It's going to take us just about that amount of time to sort through all of the mayhem. On behalf of everybody here at RCI and RCI TV, we thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. We hope that you've enjoyed the broadcast as well. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things. We'll be back with you on Monday. And on behalf of everyone in the booth, Stewie, myself, Jesse Lee, Ryan Mawson, and the ever excellent Mike Jones, we'll see you next time.
See you at the next one.